I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here.
Great to be here together in this space and to really feel into it this morning. So many good smiles out there, and I wish more of you had this view. It's beautiful. Well, let us pray into our talk today. Eternal loving presence, divine mind, abundant source. We take this time together to open our hearts to experience the divine power of order. Allow divine order to rise up within us in our awareness. We know that each and every one of us has full access to Christ consciousness at all times. And so we claim our connection to this consciousness right here and right now. And as we open our hearts to hear our own God within, we ask that in this divine presence, all that needs to be said is said. All that needs to be heard is heard. And as we share this love, we feel into our collective power. Let us embrace one another and trust our joined journeys as a community. And so it is. Amen. Amen. Now I heard some giggles. Was it not for this? Or was there something else? Oh, I thought there was something behind me at one point, and I was like, now what is Julie pranking me about right now? Anyway, it's so good to see. Are you guys noticing the gardens and the different flowers that everyone has? I love that. I absolutely love that. One of the great things I love about order and the power of order, I get excited about it in September. Because when I really started to learn about the power of order, I started to really delve into some of these fascinating things that are among us every day. Things like flowers and how flowers grow. And one of the things I absolutely love, and I speak about it probably every year, is this golden ratio. This ratio that mathematically you can see the design in the flowers, how the centers grow. You yourself can be measured and mathematically put together in this golden ratio, this ratio that really speaks to the design of our entire world. And I often show a picture of like the Nautilus where it's the spiral. Does everyone know what I'm talking about with the spiral? And I love to this is a little thing about me, but I love to look at ancient civilizations. And even the most ancient civilizations, their symbol for life has always been this spiral. This spiral. And so even before what I think our modern mathematics were, there was this intrinsic knowledge of the spiral of life. And so I really love that. And about, I guess it's been 11 years ago now when it came out. But I often like to return to this show that I loved. It's called Touch, and it has Kiefer Sutherland in it. And he is the father of this small boy who has never said a word in his life. And he's basically this mathematical genius. And he can see the patterns in the world. And he sees these patterns and in these numbers. And he is someone who could just look at math as a language, and he speaks this language of numbers. And when I say speak, I guess that's misleading because he actually never uses his voice. But he is able to communicate with his father, and he gives him these numbers. And his father is Kiefer Sutherland. His character is Martin. And so Martin then takes these numbers and gets present to these numbers. Now, I don't know how well you are as a mathematician or someone who deals with numbers, but that is not my strongest suit. And he's not really asked to solve equations or things like that. He's given this number as something to be aware of. And then in the show, as it unfolds, he finds that this number, he's walking and he looks up and the number is the address he's standing in front of. So he goes in and he just stays present. What's going to happen? And something always happens. Something's always unfolding and he gets to be a part of it. And I love this show because it really does this wonderful way of showing the patterns in the world. And that you and I are in a pattern relationship with one another. And that there are sequences and methods to this process that are somewhat it's an undercurrent. It's not something that I don't look out in this crowd and go, okay, a 7, an 8, a 10, a 3, a 2. That sounds really bad. I don't mean it like that. More of it is like this. I don't see numbers, I don't see like the number that's there. But what I understand through this show and what it was teaching is that there are patterns to that. And then all of a sudden when you are in this divine order and you're understanding these patterns and you're staying present to it, life starts unfolding in these really beautiful ways. Now, life is always unfolding in beautiful ways. But how many of us really look at life and get sucked into the labels of chaos? How many of us listen to the news and go, I cannot believe this is happening in the world? How many of us get really pulled into thinking this is the first time this has happened? Or this has never happened like this before? And in some ways, you would be right. And in some ways, we know that history has a sequence. It has a repetition in some ways. And I'm recently teaching this class, Prosperity Plus 3. And in Prosperity Plus 2, there's a time when, and I was reminded of it, there's a time when she starts showing Time magazine covers. And she just removed the dates and the years. And then you start looking at it and you're like, yep, that's happening now. Oh yeah. I don't remember that cover, but that's happening right now. And maybe you chalk it up to you're not a Time magazine reader or connoisseur or whatever it is. But then she puts the dates back on. And you realize that this has happened in my lifetime now 3 times. I'm only 49. I'm only 49. But it's so interesting to see these patterns. And what's very interesting about it to me is that in this show, you can see how these different patterns and how they're connected. Because you have the advantage of it being a show. So they can show something that's happening in Pakistan, something that's happening in Japan, something that's happening in the United States, something that's happening in England, and how all of these people kind of are connected in these patterns. So if you want to check it out, it is a show. It's called Touch. And, it's a drama show. So eventually it turns into a drama. But the first episode is so powerful. And the show does reveal itself in these patterns, and I really like it. You can find it on Hulu, or probably even YouTube. Sorry about that. But I love talking about these patterns and leaning into it, because just like you, there is a pattern of the sun rising, and I just expect it every morning. The sun will rise. There is a pattern of the sun going down. I expect that to happen. We live in Ohio, and so I expect 4 seasons. I expect these things and these patterns to reveal themselves. And it's comforting. It's comforting to know that in Ohio in August, you sweat through a lot of humidity. But it's comforting to know that September is coming. It's comforting to know that cooler weather will be here. It's comforting to know that in the spring, without any part of me having to tell them, the flowers will bloom. I don't have to instruct the trees in fall to release their leaves. This is divine order that's already happening, that's always unfolding, and I find a lot of comfort in it. So that when my egoic mind or my material mind or the human that is Natalie is looking out on this chaos, that's looking out on her own life and saying, gosh, this feels uncomfortable. This feels like grief. This feels like loss. This feels like addiction. This feels like it should be different. When I'm having those feelings, it is comforting to have and rely on something like divine order. Thinking that something much bigger than me is at work. Leaning into the power of order in the world gives me so much comfort, and it reminds me that all is God. All is unfolding in divine order. Charles Fillmore says, order is the first law of the universe. The first law. Indeed, there could be no universe unless various parts were kept in perfect harmony. Chris and I had a conversation this morning about some very powerful harmonies in music and how music is this mathematical piece, really, and how you get these beautiful harmonies. And it's really great to understand that these things are in the power of order. But what happens when my human mind starts looking at these chaos things, and I could resign myself to this way of thinking and possibly say, this isn't in harmony. This doesn't feel in harmony. This isn't in divine order. This couldn't possibly be in divine order. When bad things happen, we often will look to that as not being in order, to not being understandable, to not being in this space of what is right. Like, this shouldn't be happening. But it is happening, and therefore it is in divine order. And lucky for me, we don't have to have mathematical equations to solve it all. I would be at the board all day. Ours is actually simply to remember and become present to divine order. To trust that this is the first law and that it is in divine order. And it's interesting how the egoic mind has practiced so many old thoughts that when challenges of difficulty come up, we tend to go, this isn't supposed to be happening, but we also tend to say, this is, well, I'm having a trouble saying it because I have to admit something. You get mad at God. I used to get mad at God when things happened. When I lost my brother, there was an anger there. And I judged myself for being out of order because I was angry. What you learn is that anger is a part of the divine process, and it's okay. And I thought about it. I'm like, I'm not alone in that process. I know when people receive things like a cancer diagnosis, or when someone close to us dies, or unexpectedly, or we lose an important job, maybe a lucrative job, or we deal with addiction day in and day out. Often we say, sometimes people have said this is God's will. Last month we talked about God's will. And we say this is God's will, and sometimes we say, God is teaching us a lesson, or God is testing me through this process, or God needed that person in heaven, or maybe my suffering will bring me a better place of understanding or a better spot in heaven. I used to think those things. But when we do that, we speak of God as though God is a superhuman, someone in the skies that's pulling these strings according to his or her own divine order. And that is not divine order. No. Linda Martella Whitsett says, when you're thinking this way, she exclaims, but wait, God is not a superhuman personality that imposes order. Rather, God is order. Let me say that again. God is not a superhuman personality that imposes order. God is order. It is the organizing principle revealed in these patterns and these sequences inherent in all of life. Divine order is not a correction of some unhappy condition, but an integrated arrangement of energy in a pattern, in a sequence, and in a method. So if God is order, and our Christ consciousness is one in God, as God, then it stands to reason what our reading said today is true, and it carries a beautiful, empowering truth. You and I are divine order. And we affirm divine order in our body, and we feel divine order in every part, in every organ, every function, every faculty. And I can be free of weakness or imperfection. And I am strong, I am well, I am whole. That's important to remember when you have a diagnosis. It's important to remember every day when you are waking up, starting your routine, to affirm your life is in divine order. That it is in the pattern of what is divine. That it is inherent within you. And that I am in divine order. I affirm that my personal affairs are in divine order. Whew! Ever get that unexpected bill that you just are like, how am I going to pay it? Just me? All right. It happened to my neighbors recently. They had a huge plumbing issue, and he comes out and he's like, Natalie, it's going to be like $1,600. They got to trench it. They got to do all this stuff. And Scott was just like, you could just see he was like standing like this, like beat down. And those kinds of things used to really bring and trigger fear for me. But when I understand divine order, and I understand that I am in divine order, then I have a choice in how I respond to that process. I can say these affirmations that are a practice in unity, and that is, I am divine order. I bless myself and my personal affairs. If I'm having a difficulty in relationships, I bless those relationships and remember that even in arguments, discomfort, disagreement, we are still in divine order. That's a big one. You ever been in the middle of an argument and going, wait a minute, this is exactly what's supposed to be happening right now? Right? Yeah. I know I do it all the time. Yeah. It's so funny when things are going on to remember this is happening for you. That, these things that we can't necessarily first identify as happening for us, they are happening for us. They're happening for us for this deeper understanding. They're happening for us so we have a medium as the artist. It's the clay that's in front of us. It is our opportunity to practice this understanding and knowing that we are in divine order. It enables us to contribute toward maintaining this divine order in our mind, in our body, and our affairs. That's what we talked about today in the reading. So it's interesting when you look at life and the gift of understanding that God is order. That we are connected in this oneness and that we are in divine order. Through this Christ consciousness that we constantly talk about, there's a chance of going into that still small voice. And maybe you don't do it in the midst of an argument, but maybe you pull away and take some time for yourself and get into that space. Maybe it's the vacation of your heart. Maybe it's that space where you could get still and really listen and remember that you are in divine order. That all is in divine order. Because there is an empowerment there that gives you the power to adjust it, that gives you the power to move forward, to make any decision that will support you next. So understanding that you are divine order expressing empowers you to love yourself, empowers you to look at your own patterns and love those patterns. And when I talk about those patterns and those sequences, it's not that they're fixed. Divine order isn't meant that you will keep repeating. If you go back to those Time magazines, we're playing it out a little different each time. Each time we get to raise our vibration. We can raise this vibration and we can attune to the flow of life. This deeper knowing will awaken you to your higher self. There is a sleeping giant within you. And I tell you this because it's important that we go there to sit in the quiet, to sit and be there and to be in that knowing. Because the next time you're in the argument, you may not even start the argument. You may look at that person and say, wow, I see myself. I can see I need to love here. I can see that if I tune in that all my needs are already being met, then I need nothing. I don't have to grab. I don't have to reach. I can simply be a magnet and allow it to come to me. That's an empowering place to be when you understand you are in divine order. It will awaken you to the oneness, and you will remember that you are not just this body. You are not your job. You are not your addiction. You are not any disease. And nothing can ever be lost. Love knows no separation, and oneness knows the truth of your being. When I think about love knows no separation, I circle back to the grieving that I've been doing. And it's different this time. And it's different because of the practice of this, the practice of knowing, the understanding. And so each time I am grieving because I feel the separation, I don't stay there. I am quickly able to redirect, not because I need to get out of pain or assuage it in some way, although that is an effect and it is sort of nice, but it doesn't always take it away. But it shifts my understanding that I've never been separated from them. Ever. We're not separated from those we love. We're not separated from one another. Sometimes being separated is convenient. Like, I need to get out of here. What did you say? Whew, nope, can't be there. But it's also important to remember that this is still divine order. This is still exactly how the harmony works. And divine order is always returning us to harmony. You are designed to attune to this divine order. I love this. This body, this soul, this mind is designed to be attuned to divine order. That's some good news. I know you're not sitting here like, wow, but it's some good news. It's such good news that when you remember, when you are ailing, when you have your joints hurting, or when you can't see what you want to see anymore, you can't hear what's happening in the back, or you have something going on, you can remember that your body is attuned to restore and reconnect and be in the harmony. It is designed to be there. So your body is constantly adjusting to be there. Your mind is constantly adjusting to be in attunement, to be in the flow. You were designed in divine order. So you are constantly returning. But wait. If you are not feeling the harmony in all aspects of your life, I want you to come back next week, because there is a wonderful feature of order called adjustment. And adjustment is a beautiful feature of divine order. And so knowing that you are attuned, knowing that you're designed to be attuned, that's just not for you. That is for all of us, and it's for you. So when you're looking in someone else, and you can say to them, and you can visualize them, they are returning and constantly designed to be attuned to divine order. We are attuned to be in divine order always and in all ways. That's a powerful way of being. So I put together this affirmation that I'd like for you to take into the silence with you this week, to remind you how you shift into divine harmony and divine order. And the affirmation is something that we do in unity as a form of prayer. We do something called affirmations and denials. We deny what is not true, like we are not designed to be whole. We deny those things, but we affirm what we know is true. And so I wrote this affirmation for today, and I've got one for everyone to take home. And you can take it home, and you can use your little clip, and you can put it on your refrigerator. Yeah. Now we're cooking with gas. All right. I'd like for you to repeat it after me, though. I am divine order. Thank you for showing me that this issue is already solved. Yeah. It's something that came to me in A Course in Miracles. Lesson 80 is my problems are already solved. And I join that group as much as I can, as a weekly group. And we get to choose a lesson that we work on ourselves. And the one I've been choosing now for the last 8 months has been my problems are already solved. So this affirmation has been shifting. It has been working me. It has been supporting me. It has been teaching me. It has been reminding me that I am in divine order. It has been reminding me that all that is happening is in divine order. That even in chaos, I get to look for the order. So this week I want you to take this and I want you to sit with it in the silence of your heart. And I want you to allow the God within you to speak to you and through you. And then I want you to be like Martin Baum, the guy from Touch. And I want you to just get very present to the patterns in your life, to the pattern that's before you, to see the divine order in what's unfolding. Maybe it's as simple as leaving here today and going to the park and looking at the center of a flower and how it grows. Maybe it's as complex as applying divine order to a difficult situation. But take this affirmation and take it into your heart, and then come back next week. You'll be different. You'll be great. You'll be attuned. And you'll be in divine order throughout it all. And don't forget, next week we're talking about adjustment. So I want you to whisper this to your heart each time any concern comes up. If you want to take an extra, we have one. Put one in your car. When difficult things arise, stay present to the consciousness of gratitude and allow the harmony to meet you on your journey. Let us pray into the oneness. Eternal loving presence here in heaven, hallowed be our holy name. Our kingdom has come. Divine will is always being done on earth. May we realize heaven. May we know we are of source and our every need and desire is already ours. Source is all there is, and as source we are abundant givers and receivers. May we live from the oneness and recognize we are always connected to our neighbor. Allow divine thoughts to express through us and deliver us from the broken thought of separation. For ours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, now and forever. And so it is. Amen.
I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be.